Hey YouTube! Today we are going to be discussing the things I learned to appreciate while living in Vietnam. It is pretty normal nowadays for Americans to have a contrarian or completely negative view of their own country and culture. I definitely had this outlook during much of my life. However, after living abroad for a few years, I have learned to appreciate things I used to take for granted. Before we get started, remember all of my videos are time-stamped, so if you want to skip to a certain subject, just look down in the description for the time. Also, if you want to see my videos 1 week early, check out my Patreon. After living outside of the US for a few years, I realized that many places around the world don't have the same blending of cultures that the US does. People from every part of the world moved to America and learned to live together. They brought their different cultural backgrounds and shared their ideas. If you go to nearly any other country in the world, you get one group of people with one culture, one language, one style of cooking, music, and so on. In the US, it is very different. In major cities, you can turn down one street and suddenly all of the shop signs are written in Spanish, Chinese, or Hebrew. Even when you get outside of the major cities, any suburb is going to have a variety of restaurants run by people from all over the world. The ability to spot foreigners is also eliminated in America. In Vietnam, anyone can spot a foreigner at any moment. It is extremely obvious who is and isn't Vietnamese. These foreigners then get treated differently. Sometimes it is a good thing, people want to talk or help them. Sometimes it is a bad thing, people want to scam them. In the US, there is no way to determine if someone is a US citizen or a foreigner simply by looking at them. You can't tell by their skin color, facial features, or the way they dress. The next topic is about the English language. I definitely never realized how important this language was while living in the US. I suppose it's like a fish not noticing the water it's swimming in. After spending only a short time out of America, I realized how crucial this language has become around the world. In almost any international city, when people of two different backgrounds meet, the language they will default to is almost always English. I saw a person who was born and raised in Vietnam speaking with someone who was from Spain. What language did they choose to converse in? Vietnamese? Spanish? No, English. English has become this common tongue language like something out of a Tolkien story. All cultures have their own individual languages, but when they want to communicate together, they choose English. As a result of this, English has become increasingly important in different parts of the world. In Vietnam, parents push their kids to learn English because it can be a major factor in determining what kind of university they can go to and what kind of job they can get. If their scores are high enough, they can study in schools in Australia or America. This then opens up more opportunities for them in their career. Up next, I want to talk about the air and water in the US. Due to the extreme pessimism in the US, many people will try to argue that there is too much pollution and the water is not safe there. This is simply false. People will point to the water crisis in Flint, Michigan. It is difficult to count, but the US is estimated to have more than 19,000 cities and towns. This water issue only occurred in one of those cities. From the time the first study was published showing that there was an issue with the water until the problem was completely fixed, it took a little over a year. I'm not even sure how to calculate the percentage of risk for this. To make it easier, let's say that one random city in America always has contaminated water. That would be 1 out of 19,000, or a risk of about 0.005%. If you also take into account that this crisis only lasted for about a year compared to the number of years the US has existed, the risk percentage goes down even more. The fact that this one town had dirty water for a short period of time and made national and international headline news daily for months shows two things. One, how seriously the US took this issue, and two, how small this issue really was compared to the rest of the world. From small countries like Vietnam to some of the largest countries like China or India, the water is not safe to drink. And I don't mean it's not safe in one city within that country. I mean the entire country's water supply is not safe. Once you leave the US, you quickly realize how much you miss being able to get fresh, clean water right out of your kitchen sink. Along with the water, people in the US tend to view the country as a major source of pollution. These people have clearly never been anywhere outside of North America or Europe. Pull up the air quality data on any random day, and the biggest polluters are almost always in the Middle East and Southern Asia. Looking at the data from 2023, we can see that the pollution is coming from places like India, Iraq, the UAE, Egypt, and Qatar. Then the data moves towards the east, Indonesia, China, Laos, and Vietnam. While living in Vietnam, I basically wore a mask anytime I left my apartment, regardless of COVID restrictions. In fact, you are more likely to see people wearing masks outside than inside. The smog can fill the skies and make you feel like you are experiencing very strong allergies. Moving way down the list of polluted places, we finally see the US near the bottom. For decades, the EPA has worked to keep America's environment clean and healthy. To be able to walk out your door and breathe fresh air is something you should appreciate. My next topic is likely the most controversial. People in the US and around the world love to talk about the faults of the US healthcare system. I am here to disagree. I won't be claiming that the US has the best or most affordable healthcare in the world, but I will say that it is not as terrible as everyone likes to say it is. I think the main problem in the US is not the actual healthcare. It is the billing for the healthcare. I lived in the US for the first 29 years of my life. I had multiple hospital stays and surgeries for various reasons. At no point in my life have I felt like the healthcare system let me down. The medical professionals are well trained and educated. The billing side is where the issues come in. If you don't have insurance, your bills can be astronomical. This is a problem, and I think it's something that needs to be addressed. On the other hand, you can have a system that is the complete opposite. YouTubers and social media influencers will flock to places like Vietnam and brag about how cheap everything is. Sure, you can get such and such medicine for 10 times cheaper or blah 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 surgery for half off, but you also kind of get what you pay for. I went to a doctor when I clearly had the flu. I had a fever, vomiting, diarrhea, was constantly cold and then hot again, and so on. The doctor refused to give me a flu test and claimed I just had allergies. He prescribed me allergy medicine and told me to go home. If you are a US citizen and you move abroad to a place like Vietnam, it can be quite scary. If you no longer work for a US company, you likely no longer have US health insurance. So your healthcare options are to deal with the terrible service in Vietnam or to fly back to the US and pay everything out of pocket. To sum up this section, yes, the US has a long way to go to improve the billing side of healthcare, but as far as the actual healthcare goes, it is far better than the influencers online like to make it out to be.
Come on, buddy. Come on, keep walking.
I never realized how good places like the US have it when it comes to privacy. In Vietnam, nothing, and I mean nothing, is private. When you are in school, everyone's grades are just announced to the whole class rather than being discreetly given to each student. Medical information is often communicated first to the family of the patient and then to the patient. Everyone in each little alley knows what's going on in everyone else's house and gossips about it with the rest of the alley. In the US, it is obviously very different. A student's grades only need to be known by the teacher, the student, and possibly the parents of the student. There is no reason to announce their grade to the class other than to just embarrass them. A patient's medical records are confidential. The doctor can only give the information to the patient, and it is up to the patient to decide if they want to tell anyone, who they want to tell, and when they want to tell them. I realize this is something small compared to things like pollution or healthcare, and most people probably don't even think about it in their day-to-day life, but I still wanted to mention this difference. Perhaps the thing on this list I missed the most while living abroad was organization. I could talk for hours about how frustratingly disorganized Vietnam is. The organization level in the US is extremely underappreciated. People know what a line is and can wait for their turn. People drive on the correct side of the road. Any kind of paperwork is much more organized. When you go somewhere, you know exactly what documents you need to bring, you wait for your turn, and you take care of the problem. When you want to see a doctor, you set an appointment, show up at the right time, and see the doctor. This may have been the biggest culture shock and source of frustration while I lived in Vietnam. There's no organization, no appointments, no set schedules, no planning ahead. For some people, this might sound great. For me, it was terrible. Online, the US is often painted as a hellish landscape of capitalism ruled by billionaires. While there certainly is some truth to this, I don't think people realize how many rights workers have in the US compared to some other places. Workers can unionize, strike, quit their job at any time, seek employment elsewhere, and so on. There are protections for people of different races, ethnicities, religions, and ages. Yes, there are more rights to be had, like legally protected vacation time and maternity and paternity leave, but compared to many places, workers in the US already have many rights and, more importantly, have the right to continue to demand more. Democracy wasn't something I thought about a lot while living in the US. I did think about politics and different political systems, but I really didn't appreciate the system of democracy until I left the US. Democracy gives society the opportunity to change and grow. The US started as a country ruled by land-owning men who owned slaves. Women and minorities had no rights. Thanks to the system of democracy, this all changed over time. Slavery was made illegal, and different movements throughout history gave rights to all people regardless of race or financial status. In countries without democracy, no change can happen unless the few people at the top want it to happen. In Russia, no one can get rid of Putin because there are no real elections. In China, the government can spy on their citizens and throw Uyghurs into prison camps because no one can vote to oppose this. In the various regimes in the Middle East, the governments can enact Sharia law and oppress women because no one can vote for a change. Think about the freedom people have in democratic countries. Any American can go in the middle of their city or online, claim that the president is an idiot, read off a list of everything they don't like about the government, and then enter the race to be the next president. Imagine doing that in one of the places I mentioned previously. Is America the greatest country in the world? I don't know how you could calculate something like that, but probably not. America gets a lot of things wrong. There are many problems in this country. But the great thing is that together, the citizens of this country can continue to work to make it a better place. That's about it for this video. Make sure you check out my Patreon. You can see my videos 1 week early there for free. No need to sign up for anything. Thanks for watching.